Now, a brand expert is sounding the alarm about the extent to which crime and politics have destroyed South Africa's reputation. Thebe Ikalafeng says a drastic rethink is needed to reverse the lawlessness, corruption and moral decay in our country. But what exactly would rebuild brand South Africa? Well, Ikalafeng joins me now to discuss this further. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Thebe. Firstly, one of the stories that will probably form part of the dark spots on brand South Africa for quite some time is this Thabo Bester escape story. What do you think that has done to brand South Africa, especially on an international level? I mean, you find, TV stations such as CNN having it as breaking news.
Well, it has been covered quite extensively globally. I think what we should look at how the country, how the security cluster handles this case. So if it goes through well from the judiciary, it goes. The people get accountable that have performed these or rather responsible for this injustice. If that happens, then the brand will be restored in that space. So I don't think there's much of a problem in terms of if this comes out well. The problem will be if we lose this case. The problem obviously is right now the fact that we've allowed this to happen. It has shown a bit of a kink in our system, if you will. But hopefully we'll go through this in a good way, and then it'll be fine from a judicial, from a justice perspective.
Do you think what was done by law enforcement, including even a department such as Home Affairs, and chartering that plane and finding the two fugitives, before they skipped Arusha in Tanzania to Kenya, did something for us, at least in South Africa, in terms of what our law enforcement officials is capable of?
Yes, I think it was actually a very positive way in terms of how it was handled. I mean, this was handled as a whole of state. We had Home Affairs, we had security, we had police, all involved, justice, all involved, NPA. In trying to make sure that we enforce the rule of law in the country. By chartering the plane there, it shows the urgency and the expediency with which we dealt with this issue when it needed to be dealt with. Did we do it a bit later than we should have? Of course. But did we do it right in the end when we did to? Of course we did that. And I think that bodes well for the country. And that's what we need to build on. We need to build on not just for the Thabo Besters of the world, but also for the Guptas of the world, for all the others people, not just outside, but also internally in terms of how we deal with crime. We need to deal with crime expediently and decisively and ensure that it sets an example for anybody else who's got ambitions of being a lawless citizen in this country.
And I mean, Thebe, also, besides the fact that we have this Thabo Bester story, this obviously is consuming a lot of people at the moment, but we're also a country that has serious a serious power crisis, which in itself is inflationary. And which in itself might make us look bad. We were grey listed, meaning we are under a very watchful eye internationally in terms of who can actually invest in our country. How do we fix this? How do we become like Mauritius and get out of a grey list at least in less than 2 years?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things. I think from a grey listing, a couple of points were listed in terms of what we need to do to get out of it. And I think the Treasury has at least been clear and decisive in that space. They've gone through the checklist of what we need to do. They've said, and we can take it on their record, that they've said that there's only a couple of points that they need to get through. But the truth is, it will take a couple of years to get through this. And many other countries have gone through it. So it shouldn't be seen as such a difficult issue to get out of. The problems that we have in South Africa are not so much the problems that we're in, but how we get into the problems, and hopefully we'll be able to get out of this. And I mean, you mentioned load shedding, for example, which obviously has caused a lot of devastation from a business, has caused jobs, has created a lot of unemployment, has killed businesses. The issue again there is load shedding is not a uniquely South African issue. You can find load shedding in England. You can find load shedding anywhere else in the continent. The the point is how we deal with it. Whether it's setting up a Minister of Electricity is one solution, but it's also what we do with the ESCOM of the country and how we deal with trying to resolve these issues conclusively. And the transparency, I mean, last week we heard that we went into stage 8. We didn't know that, but we felt it. So it's about transparency, it's about urgency, and it's about decisiveness. So if we can do those three things well as a country, we will get out of the challenges that we have. Every country goes through a challenge. Of course, we're in our deepest abyss right now.
And I mean, looking at what was gazetted by National Treasury when it came to ESCOM, when they tried to exonerate ESCOM from the PFMA, they are saying that they're still thinking about it, etc. That also looks a little bit dodgy, especially to, that body that put us on that grey list, because those were the reasons. PFMA were one of the main reasons around corruption. My last question to you, without sounding like I'm someone who wants to praise fish for swimming, once everything comes out like it did during the State Capture Commission of Inquiry in this Thabo Bester story, we'll probably find out about, high-ranking officials in correctional services, etc., that aided and abated this escape. Should we praise Brand South Africa for finally getting to this a year later, or is it a case of not praising fish for swimming?
I think, like I've said, there's a phrase that says better late than never. And I think in this instance, we need to praise the fish for being able to fish, to swim well. And we need to really be look positive into the country. This is a beautiful country. This country still is still one of the most attractive countries to invest in and to live in the continent. Yes, we've gone through some difficult challenges. What we require now, we require the fish to swim again. We require the fish to do what they're supposed to do, as you say. But importantly, we need, like I said, we need transparency on the issues. We need clarity on where we are. We need decisiveness. And most importantly, we need accountability. I think what has killed South Africa more than anything else is the perceived lack of accountability. Yeah, if we can hold people accountable, whether they're in high office or low office or no office, if we can hold them all accountable, this country will send the right signals globally. And of course, if we can deal with the issues of ESCOM, we'll be in the right space. ESCOM is probably one of the biggest hurdles to rebuilding the South African brand, because it's catalytic to so many issues, our joblessness. I mean, if you look, we're the third highest unemployment rate in the world. So, and that has been caused a lot, not just by youth unemployment, but also losses of jobs, companies that have had to close down, not just because of ESCOM, but also because of COVID and ESCOM and many other issues relating to governance.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us. And not that I want to hoot at myself, but I want to give a huge congratulations to the media as the Fourth Estate, Ground Up, for instance, and then eNCA through my colleagues Lindelo Masigane, being able to show government that, in fact, that person they thought died in prison last year is very much alive. Thank you for speaking to us. That was brand expert Thebe Ikalafeng.